Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Snapshot, episode 45. We are back with video this week now that I'm not traveling. I am joined, as always, by Marvel Snap phenom KM Best. KM, your week in Marvel Snap, sir.
I'm worried I might have overshot ending rank 69. As of this recording, I'm 55. I'm going to try and see if I can decay to it, because having to play is volatile. I don't want to go below it more than I don't want to go above it, right? But I think I'm in range of it. I'm not too far off. I think it's possible if enough people push for like late finishes or something, it could happen, right? Maybe, potentially. I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm in range, but we'll see where I'm actually at. Hold on. I'm actually, because I checked 55. It was earlier this morning. Maybe I'll be lower now. Maybe it'll be more realistic. I'm checking right now. You can see live in real time me stressing about this. Maybe I'll be like 60. Anything?
A gentleman's achievement, that would be.
58, baby. Yo.
It's actually pretty possible.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish you, Godspeed, best of luck. It surely will be a momentous achievement if you're able to achieve rank 69 here. Anyway, let's hop into the news. So one thing we didn't really get around to on last week's podcast, but has definitely been a big, I don't know, I hate to say the word thing, but I don't have a better word on me right now. I need help from my SAT word bank, KM Best over there. But the big thing of this week has been Werewolf by Night. I mean, that card is absolutely ridiculous. It's not quite.
It's a good card.
Yeah, it's very good. It's not quite the power level of Elsa. Elsa, of course, was nerfed down to +2 instead of +3 recently. But I had a chance to play with that card quite a bit, and it's really, really good. I mean, Werewolf by Night, for those who don't know, is a 3/3, and it says when you play an on reveal card at another location, move there and gain +2 power. I've been playing a pretty similar list to UKM. I was actually playing Lambie's list. I also played your list as well. But I was getting a lot of runway out of the Forge, to be honest. So it was, I don't know. I'm definitely in a lower rank than you, so I was having fun with it. But yeah, Werewolf by Night definitely impressed me. It's a cool card. The deck list, the Loki deck list it's going into right now is pretty fun. I would say it's decently technical. There's a lot going on, and Werewolf by Night definitely contributes to that. So, yeah, really, really good card. Where do you sort of see this card, or what's your take on it now you've been able to play for a week? Just good, or do you think it's busted?
So Werewolf by Night is a very big unit, right? Like it's like a 311, a 315. People say it's a 3 whatever, but I think just on a fundamental level, one big unit is more balanced than what Elsa was, which was distributing that power across lanes, and also she was probably bigger. One big unit is something that is more dealable with by opponents, right? It's not game breaking the same way. Like, yeah, it's overstated maybe a little bit, but you have to put a lot of effort into it, and it's easier to balance around this guy is really big than it is to balance around other stuff, right? Like, when you look at Werewolf, it's like, okay, that's a 3/9, 311, right? But, like, okay, look at Devil Dinosaur. That's a 517, right? Like, there's some precedent for this is just one big guy, and it's like, it's fine that it's bigger than everything else at that cost, right? Like, it's actually just fine, right? As a 3, I think that's about where you have to put a card like this, because if you made it a 4, I think it actually would be like, okay, there's a really significant cost attached to playing this, because the cost attached to Werewolf by Night is you need to leave your lanes open for him to do stuff, right? He very often will become like a 3/9 doing what you want to do, but like he's very hard to play with. And he does require you to leave your lanes open, which is why I don't like running him with Elsa. And there is a real deck building cost associated with him. And a real, like, yeah, he's one big guy, but like if they Shadow King or Shang it, you're just going to die. And so it's like, okay, well, now I also need to not get Shadow Kinged or Shanged. And if they have priority and he's able to be Shanged, you're just absolutely dead. And it's a bit of a weird spot, honestly. Like, I think the card is as balanced a 315 as they could possibly release. Does that make sense?
No,
like,
it definitely makes sense.
If they're going to make a 315, this is the most balanced 315 I've ever played. I'm not saying he doesn't need to be nerfed or anything like that. I think plenty of people will be like, yeah, make him a 3-1, make him a 3-2. But, I mean, he just doesn't strike me as, like, that overpowering. And actually, no deck strikes me as, like, that overpowering right now. I don't think there's a single deck that's, like, to the level of the best decks we've seen previously, which is probably good. Like, I do think Loki is the best deck, but it's not what it was a month ago. It's not what it was 2 months ago. It's just, the best deck by a pretty decent margin, but it's still like, it's not like you're getting 65% win rates with it. It's just good.
Yeah, Werewolf by Night definitely, it has a dexterity that's associated with it. You have to think about how you're going to play it. Sometimes you have other options on turn 3, whether it's like the Beast or a combination of cards, and drawing him late can not be fantastic. The deck building constraint is real, like you said, it's very real at that. So I do think it feels relatively balanced, although it feels very powerful. Like when you do the thing, you're like,
yep.
it feels good. I mean, to that end, it does feel very good to do the thing. And I'm a fan of the card. I think it's really powerful and it's really fun. Yeah. So last week we were discussing the best deck, and I think you and I were both playing more of a Thanos list. I mean, I net decked you. And we were like, you did call you at the episode. You're like, there probably is just a Loki list, and it is probably just the best deck. And I think as we've seen that, coming 7 days later, a week later, it seems like that is the case. I mean, the Loki.
That's not what happened at all.
Am I off by a week? I could be off by a week.
You're off by a Mobius nerf.
Maybe.
Like what happened here, it's not like it was like people just figured out that Loki was still good. They nerfed Mobius, and that was the only thing that kept Thanos in the game. Like, Thanos, more than any other deck, is vulnerable to Loki, because, especially Loki with Quinjet. Because you play Loki with Quinjet.
You're right.
And
yes.
you just completely take a dump on any Thanos player, right? They just get like all your stuff, all your top end, and they get it for cheaper, and then they get it for cheaper again. And so Mobius's presence in the meta, not just in the Thanos deck, he was obviously good against Loki, but in the metagame, he pushed Quinjet out. And when Mobius got nerfed, Thanos, I mean, to me, it just went to unplayable. You cannot beat a Loki. You cannot do it. It is not a thing you can do. They just get your stuff, but better, because now they actually can play Quinjet again. And so, like, when you talk about it like that, the way you phrase it make it sound like this is a natural evolution. It's not. Second Dinner stepped in and obliterated the card that was keeping Thanos alive.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about it, because I remember encountering that situation exactly where I was about to start a bit of a road trip, like a 3 to 4 hour drive, and I had my Thanos deck ready to go. Obviously, it had Mobius in it, and then that patch dropped, and I immediately updated it, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so they changed Mobius so that it's not ongoing, right? It is now just like the following turn after you drop it, it's like an on-reveal ability that it has its effect, which is a significant nerf. How do you feel about the change to Mobius?
Bad.
Yeah.
I think that he should have gotten a power cost nerf rather than whatever this was. Like, Mobius's effect is important to have in the game, in my opinion. I think it's good that there is something to counter Sarah, Mr. Negative, Loki, any number of these kind of bullshit ass cards, right? Like, it's good that there's something to do something about that. And as a one-turn guy, he simply doesn't do it. As a one-turn card, he's just not ever going to be able to be that unless he's like on an extremely premium body that you play for the body, and the effect is a bonus. Like if you put him on like a 4/8, yeah, maybe he'd see play. I don't know. Like people played Crossbones, you'd probably see play as a 4/8. But like, it's one of those things where the card should exist in the game, and they went too far by deleting it. And this isn't even to touch on the fact that they were like, yeah, so we kind of thought this guy might be too strong, so we're deleting him entirely, right? And it's like, well, hold on now. If you thought he might be too strong, okay, like nerf him, I would get that, right? Like change power cost, make him a 2/1, be like, all right, we got to bring this back down to earth, right? But they just killed him. They leadered him, and they've never done that to a paid card before.
Yeah.
It just hasn't happened.
So now I remember. Yeah, because they put out a developer note alongside this patch, alongside this nerf specifically, and they said, we expected to make an adjustment down the road in order to welcome cost reduction strategies back into the sunlight, and then something, using a new card as a tool to create a new play environment. Temporarily, keyword there. So sort of it seems like it was premeditated. It was the plan, and we as the community, as the people buying this card, were not aware of that effect. I mean, you posted a little bit on Twitter, but just for the podcast, do you want to sort of reiterate your thoughts on the ideology that went behind that change specifically?
So there's two things. One is that is such a bold-faced thing to say, where it's like, I think if they understood that you could like, I almost think that the fact that they said it means they didn't actually do it like that. Like, does that make sense?
Because it's like it's right off the back of people complaining about them doing this exact thing, where it was like it was kind of speculation. We're like, oh, maybe they're doing this, maybe they're not. And as they come out and they're like, we're absolutely fucking doing this. Everybody's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like I almost feel like it's like, you know, some guy whose job it is to write the notes just like was like trying to express something and expressed it in exactly the wrong way. Because there's a way to read this that isn't terrible, right? The way to read this that isn't terrible is them saying like, look, we want to experiment with, you know, putting meta warping cards out there. We'd rather they be strong than they be weak. And we clearly missed high on this one, right? But then it's like, okay, we clearly missed high on this one and it killed, like reading between the lines, what you'd read is, it killed cost reduction to a degree we find unacceptable, right? That is probably what this should have said. Mm-hmm. But instead of it saying that, it said, yeah, you know, we released this guy a little bit strong and we kind of had a feeling we're going to have to delete him eventually. So here, we're deleting him entirely. It's like, wait a minute. No, wait, hold on. You didn't need to do that.
Oh, you're like, at least I get refunded on my tokens. Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah. And like from various answers that Glenn Jones has given around the Discord, my impression seems to be that they locked in these changes about 3 weeks ago, which is like a week and a half after Mobius came out, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing what happened is Mobius being priced at 3,000 meant that everyone got him, and he absolutely ruined the Pool 3 metagame. Like, when you think about what the Pool 3 metagame is, like, everything is cost reduction. There's Sarah, there's negative. It's a lot of things that are just doing cost reduction, right? And then Mobius goes in every deck to stop Loki, and then suddenly negative, which is an archetype people love playing, is completely dead, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get to like, and I think that is like when they must probably looked at that and they were like, oh my God, we have to kill this guy. They were like, oh my God, we have to kill this guy, because what's happening is this paid card, this 3,000 token card is invalidating like half the strategies people play. And like the whole point of their early game ramp is you unlock one of those cards and then you get to build around it, right? And so you unlock one of those cards, you build your little deck around it, and then you immediately die. And I think that is a greater like, you know how I have a pretty big focus on the on ramp of Marvel Snap? Mm-hmm. My guess is that Mobius fucked up the on ramp.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
That would be my guess about that, because like you look at what those decks do and you look at what he does to those decks, right? He sort of forces them back into like a pool 1 style meta where it's like, what are you doing? Well, I'm playing on reveal.
Yeah, on reveal.
That doesn't rely on this, right? Yeah. It's not fun, I think. I think that would be my guess. And then from what Glenn has said in the public facing Discord stuff, I have seen him say like, look, we probably wouldn't do it this way if we had the option. Like if this was an OTA, we wouldn't have done what we did there, but we locked the patch in a little bit early.
Yeah. Mobius is a particularly interesting card to me because I think as a hate bear, so like looking at the macro of Mobius, it is a bit of a limiting card in terms of like design. It, you know, theoretically hates out a lot more archetypes than it brings into the meta, potentially. But I also thought that Mobius was like ultra balanced because you have to fucking draw him. And like, if you don't,
that's not balanced though. That's not balanced. That's not the same thing. He's not balanced. Like, that's like saying like when you look at him, you have to draw him, right? Compare him to every other tech card in the game. Shang-Chi, Killmonger, Cosmo, Luke Cage. He has better stats for his cost than any of them, and he's better than most. Like, like especially the comparison to Luke Cage is like, what the fuck are you doing here, right? Like that was the one we made when he first came out, which was like, okay, so Mobius is better on his locations than Luke Cage is on his locations. To be clear, like Elysium, the Raft, stuff like that, he's better than Luke Cage is on like the negative locations, significantly, right? And then you have the fact that he is a 2/3. And then you have the fact that the thing that he does good against, cost reduction, is way more common than the thing that Luke Cage does good against, which is -1 power, right? And you can't come to any conclusion other than why the hell is he better than Luke Cage on numbers? because his effect is better than Luke Cage, and also his numbers are better than Luke Cage. And so it's like this guy is very, very clearly undercosted for what he's giving.
A bit pushed.
Like,
I guess I'm looking at it from the Loki perspective, where he felt like a very balanced hate card, where it was like, it really was. It was, I don't know, it wasn't overwhelming. It felt actually a little bit underwhelming in terms of like, we saw that card, we're like, is this going to get rid of Loki? And it really didn't. But I'm not looking at it from the perspective of like, I'm a pool 3 negative player and everybody's dropping Mobius on me. So that is a part of the metagame that I'm ignorant to. So maybe in those cases, he actually was too oppressive as a hate bear.
I'm guessing that the answer is yes, because like the thing about Loki is it's the best one of those guys. And I mean, let's be clear about what Mobius did to Loki, which is to say it made it an Elsa deck. Loki was an Elsa deck. It wasn't like a Loki deck. You weren't doing Loki stuff. We cut the collector for fuck's sake. Like, we're not a Loki deck anymore, right? Like, yeah, why is he back though? Interesting question. And that why are the collector and Quinjet back? What did that, right? Like, and it was Mobius. Mobius did that. And he is not a Loki killer. Loki's still a pretty strong card, but he's a Loki balancer. He's a Sarah balancer. He's a negative balancer. Like, it's good that this stuff works, right? But it's bad for like a pool 3 gamer. It's really bad for like a pool 3 gamer because it forces the game when cost reduction isn't a viable strategy, which with Mobius at 2/3 and Loki everywhere, it just isn't a viable strategy. It's just not a thing you can do.
Yeah,
it forces the game to be more formulaic and straightforward. And I think that's bad.
It's interesting that they have to, or from what we understand, they have to balance around multiple metagames being pool 1, I don't know, I guess late pool, like whatever the delta is on people in pool 3 and them acquiring like X number of series 4, series 5 cards, and then the outlier of the people that have are far on the other side of the bell curve that have like most of the cards. I wonder which one dictates most of the balance. I'm assuming it is that sort of late, I don't know, early to mid pool 3, where you're complete on pool 3 and you're starting to acquire, or close to complete and you're starting to acquire series 4 to series 5. It's an interesting concept for sure. But overall, it does seem like community feedback on this one was overwhelmingly negative because, like you said, it wasn't just a stat change, which might have been.
No, they nuked him.
They nuked him, which might have been enough. I mean, honestly, if you made him come down on significantly later turns, I mean, that would and you made him less efficiently, it would drastically reduce the card's effectiveness.
Like, I have like several breakpoints here that I've been pitching. The first is 1-1. The second is 2-1. The third is like 3-2, 3-3. The fourth is like 4-6.
That's what I was thinking. It was 4 something, like 4-5, 4-6.
Yeah. And it's like I think most of those work, right? Like most of those are like, okay, yeah, that plays, right? The issue with 4-cost Mobius is, especially if you talk about like Sarah, right? It just ends up very hard countering Sarah, like, because you can't play the Sarah on turn 5 because you have to get rid of the Mobius. It's just like, okay, that sucks. So you probably don't go 4 with it, right? But like 3-2, 2-1. Those were all things that I like. The whole problem with Mobius was not, oh my God, he's too good. He's too free. He's too free of an include. And part of that was Elsa, and they hit Elsa. But like when you look at Mobius now, like actually putting an ongoing 2-1 in your werewolf deck, yeah, that's actually a bad thing. That's a cost you got to pay, and you're only going to pay that cost if you really hate Loki, and that's probably where he should be at.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, interesting rhetoric they used in the developer note. Probably, I guess it backfired a little bit. So maybe, like you said,
I'll be honest, like I haven't been more down on the game in my entire time playing it.
Okay, well,
I want an actual apology.
Okay, let's break that down a little bit more, because I think that we think that this was kind of going on already, but it was more of a theory. And now when they come out and they say it in such a blunt way, it just feels like, because it does feel like the monetization around this kind of change, if it was directly correlated and intentional, is a bit dishonest, where it's like they release a card at this price, you buy it, then they nuke it with a nerf.
Right.
And then you have to buy the next big thing.
I want an explanation of how this happened. And I want them to say, we'll never do it again. I don't want them to say, we'll never release a good card again. I don't want them to get scared of releasing good cards. I want them to be like, look, we're gonna miss high sometimes, but we're not doing this shit on purpose. I promise.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if that would go over very well, where it's like, I mean, how are people supposed to look at that and be like, you just said what you did here? And it just seems like I've never been less motivated. I'm going to be honest with you. Like that was a hard thing to read.
Yeah.
Like it's
interesting because the precedent with other games in the industry is usually to refund around changes, but Marvel Snap has so many changes all the time that maybe that's not viable. But Marvel Snap also is just on the end of like hardcore no refunds under any circumstances. Like, I don't know. It's just, I guess, I don't know if it's second dinner or if it's new verse, which I think. I'm not too sure on the back end works, like who really controls the monetization, who really dictates a lot of the strategy. But it is second dinner. Interesting.
Like,
yeah, because I was wondering if it was the big bag.
Is the publisher.
Yeah.
But like I think people love to do that where they're like, it's the
big bad
the
foreign
company. Publisher who's doing all the bad things and no, there are monetization people in second dinner. One of them talks in the Discord a decent amount. Like, this is not. If they're getting their orders from outside of second dinner, there wouldn't be a point in having them inside second dinner, would be my guess, right? Like, there are very clear guys who run the bundles and all that stuff, right? Yeah. Those guys are public facing.
It's interesting,
and I don't think it's Newverse.
I haven't because I haven't encountered those people, the public facing people that are part of that area of the company. But for me, like speaking to Glenn Jones, seeing Ben Brode interact on content channels and just in general, a lot of the stuff that the game does just seems antithetical to their personalities, and that's why it's so jarring. Is like the kind of the monetization strategy, whether it's them telling us they're going to do one thing and then they do something completely different. The bundles, the card nerfing, etc. It does feel a bit insidious, which I think is probably more of a coincidence than that at this point, but it feels weird because when you talk to and obviously it's just a massively different department, but when you talk to like Glenn Jones or hear Ben Brode, it's like it feels like it would be more logical to be like, oh, it's just the big bad foreign publishing company, but it's not, I guess. I don't want to let them off the hook for free, because the best read of this situation, like the one that makes them look the best, is they made a huge mistake in their phrasing, right? Like, that's the best possible thing is like we were trying to express that we wanted to bring Mobius in line because we were really worried that he was killing off cost reduction entirely. And when we released him strong, it was like, all right, well, we need to release him strong to see what he does. And that's what they meant by temporary metagame, right? That's the best read that is possible here. And, maybe, but I gotta say, it did feel like, how am I supposed to recommend someone buy a card? How am I supposed to be like, you should go out and spend your cashes on Werewolf by night when he might get nerfed and it might be intentionally pushed for 2 months? And I wouldn't have this worry previously because they've been this is what really gets me about it. This is why I assume something must have been absolutely fucked on their back end numbers. Okay. They don't do this to paid cards. They just don't. They have never done this to a paid card. Look at how light-handed they were with Shuri. Look at how light-handed they are with Thanos. Look at how many changes Kitty Pryde has gotten, and each time she's gotten weaker, but never unplayable, right? Although they should probably revert the most recent one now that Elsa is only giving +2. But Loki as well. Loki, even though it's a newer card, I think they've been very light-handed with him.
Extremely light-handed with Loki. Extremely light-handed. I think they were actually a little heavy-handed with Elsa, right? Like the light-handed one there would have been to make her like a 2-0. They were like, no, okay, we're done with this, right? But I guess here's another question. Why is it always season pass cards? Season pass cards, it feels like get an outsized amount of balance attention, both good and bad. You look at the ones that have been nerfed: Wave, Hitmonkey, Zabu, Surfer, Loki, Elsa. I mean, that's like a murderer's row right there.
Do they tend to be
those
more
are
powerful
6 of
than just
not necessarily. 5? Not necessarily, because there's also the ones that have been buffed, right? Like Nick Fury, Thor, things like that. Like there have been whiffs. Phoenix Force, or a Nimrod, right? Like there have been some real whiffs, but it feels like there've probably been like maybe 5 season pass cards since the beta that have not been balance changed in some way. And that feels weird, right? Like whether it's a buff or a nerf, it's like something is off about the process. Or alternatively, what's off about the process actually might be like they want the cards to be good. Yeah. Right? Like they want the season pass card to be good. They want the season pass card to be good. And so they're willing to aim high on it, right? And then when it's not good, they're willing to buff it up. Right? Like people forget Nick Fury came out at 5 cost, Thor came out at 4. Thor was a 4/6, Nick Fury was I think a 5/7. Phoenix Force had 5 cost, which made it completely unplayable, right? Like they are very Nimrod was a 5/5. They're very willing to buff them up. And then they're very willing to release them strong. Like when you think about the season pass cards that have been nerfed, Wave, Hitmonkey, that defined an entire metagame. Mm-hmm. Zabu, Surfer, that defined an entire metagame. Elsa, Loki, that defined an entire metagame. Like I just described basically like each one of those is like
a meta, right? Probably
like,
you could say those you could say those names and I would know what meta you're talking about, right? Like you could say the Hitmonkey meta, the Loki meta, the Elsa meta.
Yes.
I mean, some of those are they're together, but you could just say that. Yeah, you could say the season pass card name and I would know the meta because the top meta deck has that fucking card in it.
Right. And like that's basically like those 6 names. It's November right now. Mm-hmm. Those 6 names define the last year of Snap. The only other names that are up there with them are Thanos, Shuri, and potentially High Evolutionary. So 6 of the 9 most meta-defining cards in Snap, I would say. And that's interesting, right? Like, isn't that a little bit weird? Because when you think about it, like outside of Thanos and Shuri came in the first drop of cards, correct? Like they were in the first season pass grouping, right?
Yeah.
Or was Shuri like released in that first month?
Shuri could have been outside of that.
I think Shuri was outside of that, but it came in that first month. Thanos was in that, right? And so since that Black Panther season a year ago, only High Evolutionary has reached those heights and been a card not on the season pass. Is that correct? Am I way off base here? Am I missing anything? And even High Evo, that was a wave deck. Mm-hmm. Thanos, that was a wave deck too.
Yeah. Wave is an interesting card. I mean, I think there's a weird balance going on here where
Galactus, but Galactus was in that drop.
Do you think that Galactus was ever like ultra meta defining though? I think it was powerful at one point. At one point,
it was like a meta pick, right? Like there were certain like you pick it to win a tournament where no one was playing.
Exactly, somebody won a tournament with it, and then it became a little bit more popular, and then Najah complained about it. Yeah.
I told him to play it. I was like, Browday, this is the time to play Galactus. And then he played it and won the tournament and then they nerfed it.
Yeah. So Cam, there's like a balance going on between them extracting as much money as possible out of us and creating a card game, like an actual card game that has competitive integrity or just integrity at all. Because I think that the mobile model, while it does work with card games in the sense that you can have these weekly releases or you can have these expansion-based releases and keep selling a product to the player base. It doesn't really work in the sense that I think most card gamers are pretty, I don't know, apt to see pay to win. Like they're just their minds are kind of more open to it, you know, like it doesn't really go under the rug as easy, I don't think. So if a card game is legitimately pay to win, like hardcore pay to win, this card comes out, it is overwhelmingly the best card, you must buy it to compete. I just don't see people taking that for a long time. I guess it's been a year at this point, but it would continue.
I mean, I don't think it's been what, 6 out of the 12, right? And Wave, to be fair, was more than a year ago. Wave was in the beta, right? So if you really want to narrow it down to since release, it's been 5 out of the 12. It's not that bad, but it's more than I would have wanted. Like I was pretty much cool with it. It's something I actually kicked around as a video idea like 2 months ago before Elsa came out. I was like, is there any, like, it feels like there's something weird about season pass cards. And I got a spreadsheet and then I lost the spreadsheet. I don't have it anymore. And that's why I never did the video. But I got a spreadsheet where I was looking for balance change rate on season pass cards versus the other series 4 and 5 cards. And that's what I was going to build up to a video on that as like a sequel to the video I did on location math. But then the location math video did terribly. And I was like, all right, I'll forget about this. And then I lost my spreadsheet and now it's gone. And then Elsa Loki came out, and it went from like, oh, a curiosity to like, oh man, they've done this one too many times. You know what I mean? Like, they've done it one too many times, and now if I made that video, people would be like, "Yeah, duh, you idiot."
Let me ask you a question: is the problem more? Would you find there to be more of a problem with them releasing season pass cards that err on the side that are a bit too powerful because they want them to impact the meta, they want them to set the tone for that season, right? To be kind of a marquee card. Or, like, is that in itself a big enough problem? Or is the problem really derived from that these cards come out and they're a bit pushed, but then they also get nerfed and sometimes, like, you know, nuked or just kind of made irrelevant where people now feel like they have to buy the next big thing, and you're kind of on this.
It's the second one.
Okay.
The second one's the problem.
Yeah.
Their goal when nerfing should be to keep the card viable. That's why they do what they do with, like, take the top off instead of the bottom, or take the bottom off instead of the top. Their goal is to keep those cards viable, right? Shuri nerf, Sauron nerf. They did great. They're just like taking a little bit off. They're shaving a little bit. One of the advantages of their balance system is they don't have to be drastic. They can just move things a little bit and see where it goes. And then when they've moved things a little bit, they can go back and be like, all right, let's move things a little bit more. They just did that with Shuri Sauron. They took a point off Shuri, and then they were like, let's take a point off Sauron too. And now it's like a little bit more balanced, right? Like, they can do that. People have been saying like they need to do less OTAs. No, they need to take more advantage of the fact that they are able to do them incrementally. I'll also say this. I think the patch locking in 3 weeks before, they need to do less of that.
Yeah,
like
that's been a recurring thing too, where the patch comes and it's like what? It's weird. I can't remember the last time that it happened, and it was super jarring, and it was so obvious that the patch was targeting a like 2-week-old meta that, like, I think at one point just didn't really exist anymore, or just had.
It was the one. It was you're talking about Brood Abs meta.
I think
where, like, Brood Abs had just sprouted up, and they were like aiming nerfs at Darkhawk.
Yes.
Yeah, you're talking about that. Yes,
and it was like just not the case. And then there's another side of that, which is sometimes the meta has like so far overstayed its welcome, and it's like this nerf comes. It's like, yeah, we locked that in 3 weeks ago, and it's like, oh well, we've all been eating shit for the past 3 weeks, getting wrecked by this deck.
Yeah, here's my pitch. OTAs, they're for balance. Only do balance in OTAs, and patches, just do cool stuff with early pool cards. That's it. Just be like, we're gonna do we're gonna do some cool stuff, right? Like, remember when they did Forge? That was super cool, right? That was so cool. Dude, patches should just be that, where you like get like 5 cards that nobody plays, and you're like, we're gonna change your functionality. Let's see what that does, and then do balance in the OTAs. Like, just don't do balance in the patches ever again. Yeah. Never do it. Stop it. It's like, you're going to be 3 weeks out. You're going to be so far behind. Don't do it. Stop, please.
Yeah, my like, so it's funny, Cam, is I think that we talk about, we talk about monetization a lot. We talk about nerfs a lot, but I actually think that you and I collectively are probably more on the optimistic side, just in general for content creators. Cause I remember we had Dara on here, and he was just going in on their monetization model, and like, this is absolutely intentional, and they've like lost like this, they lost the audience like a while ago. And I just think it's funny because I think some people listen to this and they think we're being more cynical. Like, we actually, like, we really maintain the optimal side, and I can hear it in what you say, because like, just do the pool 1 card thing. And like, it comes with the assumption that they have any vested interest in buffing cards that are not pay to win.
It does come with the assumption of good faith, right? Yeah. And I think it's obviously, like, I want to say, I don't think that's a dunk on anyone. It's obviously easier for me to assume good faith when I can talk to Glenn about it, right? Like, this is not like, it's obviously easier for me to assume good faith when I'm talking to that, right? Like, most people can't do that, and they only have the actions to go off, and I wouldn't blame them for taking those actions as however you wanted to take them, right? Like, I'm not gonna, just because my interpretation of the actions is a little more optimistic than yours, I'm not gonna be like, yo, you're a fucking idiot or anything. Like, think that I'm also like very privileged, right? I'm making money off this game.
You have a
I don't want it to fail.
Yes, exactly. You have a vested interest in like them actually performing these things in good faith and not being ultra cynical. So
yeah,
I mean,
because like this is what I mean when I say this was the most demoralizing thing that's ever happened in the game to me, because it's like I need to be able to believe that I'm not complicit to a pump and dump. You know, like I don't think I am, but I'm definitely like it's definitely something that's entered my mind now, and it certainly hadn't entered my mind before, is like when I release a video hyping up a card, am I complicit in a pump and dump? If I do a video where I'm like, yo, Elsa is insane, go buy her, and then 2 weeks later I do a video where I'm like, yo, they need to nerf Elsa, and then they nerf Elsa, I mean, is that my fault? I really wonder about that. And this all sprung from like just a random comment that was like, you content creators always whining about nerfs. And I really sort of sat there and thought about it, and I was like, why would someone be mad about that, right? Why would you be mad about me describing this? And the reason they'd be mad about that is because they think that I'm complicit in a pump and dump. I'm always hyping up the new card and then saying it should be nerfed, and then hyping up the next card and then saying it should be nerfed. And I think the real lesson I learned about this is I need to be more careful. Like, I really do. I need to be like more clear, like, hey, look, this card might be good enough to get nerfed. You should be aware of that. Like, I need to actually take that into account now. And I don't like that.
I think that you're not incorrect, but you are reading into it a little bit, because I will say, and I'm very confident in this being something that potentially goes on. That's a weird way to phrase something, but in any game, the entrenched and experienced and player that's been playing it for a while usually has some sort of feedback, and that feedback will come off as negative because it's not always reinforcing exactly what's happening right now. And there will always be a portion of players that are experiencing the game, whether for the first time or, you know, maybe they've reached nirvana and this is just how the game is for them, but they will be in the honeymoon phase, and literally anything you say that is can be perceived as not positive, I won't even say negative because that word is too strong, but is not positive, is in some way uncomfortable. It's not something they want to hear. They just want to hear the good thing, right? Because for them, their only experience with the game is having fun. It's great. And I don't know. I've just noticed that when talking about this kind of stuff in any card game and in any context, is because I've been that person. I've gotten to a new game. I love that new game. I'm obsessed with this new game. Honestly, the last thing I want to do is go listen to somebody complain about something, right? It's just like,
yeah.
So I think that is like an underlying thing, is like some people are just going through the honeymoon phase, or they just love the game and they don't really want to hear about all that. But there is a part of you.
There is.
Yeah, where the pump.
There is a lot to love. There is a lot to love. Like I it's really crazy how like one comment got me thinking about this like a month ago, where it was just like I didn't get why people would be angry with me saying a card is broken. And then, but then when you zoom out, it's like, it's me hyping this card up and then me saying this card should be nerfed. And then and that is bad, right? Like that is like, I'm only accurately describing it, right? If you want to win, you go get Elsa. Yeah, that's correct. And also, Elsa is too strong and needs to be nerfed. That's also correct. But taken as an aggregate, it is a little bit doing this, isn't it? Like this is the thing that bugged me about it, right? Where it's like, I can't really get it out of my head. Like, obviously, I'm not the reason they're nerfing Elsa. They're nerfing Elsa because Elsa is broken. But do I have to be like, yo, this card is so good it might get nerfed every time? Because like I'm not, when I'm playing these cards for the first time, I'm not that confident in it. I know the card is strong, but I'm not sure this is going to be nerfed strong, right? Like, and so I guess I'm just not sure how to make a video now about new cards. I don't know how to do it. It's
interesting because you're playing the card and complaining about it, which is different. So I'll say I've been on the side of that person. I don't write mean YouTube comments or aggressive YouTube comments, but I have been on that side. So like in Flesh and Blood, there are some heroes or strategies that I have an affinity to that some people complain about because they're not interactive and they're complicated and they're not very fun to play.
Talking about Kano?
It could be anything. Could be Kano, could be Icelander.
Like, I don't even play Flesh and Blood, but I know Kano because you compare him to Galactus all the time. So I figured you must be talking about Kano.
Sometimes, when people complain about him, some people do complain about the deck out of pure ignorance. They actually just have no idea how it works, don't understand anything about it, but they complain about it because they lost to it one time. And those people, I will say, they don't make my day brighter. I would say, maybe they're kind of annoying because they make the argument out of ignorance. And I'm not saying that's what that other person was saying, but they could be on the same thing where they're enjoying Elsa. They're owning. And you're sitting here and you're like, this thing needs to be nerfed. And like, bro, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. There might be a little bit of that. Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, rounding out the news here. Actually, before I hit this news topic, I have to ask, because I don't want to get you in trouble. You don't have any like promotions with Warcraft Rumble, do you? We're coming off the back of BlizzCon.
I don't, but I kind of want to.
Okay, well,
hit me up, Warcraft Rumble.
Yeah, I just want to. So we're coming off the back of BlizzCon. There's a new Clash Royale game called Warcraft Rumble that came out. The reason why I want to bring it up is
apparently
I played it in beta.
All the feedback I've seen about it is like, yeah, the game is pretty cool, but they are not trying to hide the pay to win.
Yeah. So I just want to let you all know, because I played the beta. I played that game for a few months. Like I got pretty deep into it. Not that I was grinding or spending a lot of money, but I've spent time with the game, and I will tell you, you're going to get into it. It's got a great PvE. You can play, it's a great campaign. If you play for that, that's fantastic. But if you want to engage in PvP or you want to play the game for a while, it has one of the most aggressive and just obscene monetization models I've ever seen in my entire life. And PvP has no competitive integrity. I don't know if they've changed that since I played, but just be careful because it ramps up pretty aggressively. And I've seen it be promoted
in my Discord. In my Discord, there was someone who was like, I got a notification that I'd unlocked something, and what I'd unlocked was the option to buy some stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
By the way, most of those things that you unlock to buy, they're like these like temporary banners. Not only do they come back, they're not actually temporary, but they're also usually, quite often, they're actually really bad EV, which is just freaking hilarious. And then the same thing with Snap, where you like run through like 50 million currencies to understand things. Yeah, I just want to let people know, because it came out back off of BlizzCon. BlizzCon was sick this year. Great announcements. That game is really pay to win and really aggressive with it. So just be careful. Just be careful, because I see it promoted on like Snap Zone, like literally everything. That's like an analog to Snap. And yeah, if you think this game's pay to win, you better strap in.
Hey, Warcraft Rumble, hit me up. I'm clearly experienced with doing pump and dumps.
Yeah. I'm really good at selling this. Oh, yeah. They're going to hear this and they're like, we found the ideal candidate.
I'll be honest. I looked at the game and I was like, all right, I don't like the graphics. That's what I did. Apparently the core gameplay loop is so sick. Apparently it's like actually quite fun.
So it's better than Clash Royale. Clash Royale is a good game in and of itself. For what it's worth, that game is also a good win. But it is, in my opinion, adds a lot of depth on the Clash Royale, and it is better. And it's in the Warcraft IP is sick. Like I really like that IP. And they did a really cool job with like the PvE campaign progression, and there's like dungeons and raids. But yeah, I mean, once you get under the hood, it is like a hardcore mobile login, do your chores, very time gated on progression, pay to win on that progression, not just pay to progress, but also fucking pay to win, to be honest. Because in PvP, it's like in PvP, you're totally equalized until you get to like out of bronze. And as soon as you hit silver, it's like you're not. And like everything is like, it's insane how much you can get ahead by paying. I don't know if they've put a cap on it since then, but I think it was like...
It is interesting, right? Because you look at Marvel Snap and they actually do kind of go out of their way to ease that transition, right? Like they do really try to make it so you like, and I think Elsa and Loki really fucked this up, because before Elsa and Loki, I would say this game was legitimately, you could free to play your way to the top end of it. You could do it. And post Elsa, post Loki, it was like, okay, you can't do it anymore. Those cards are just too much better.
Yeah, there's also levels of pay to win, in my opinion. So a level of pay to win, like a $10 season pass card, I mean, you can look at that as like the monthly fee to play the game. That would actually be okay with me. In the case of Warcraft Rumble, it's like, okay, you go to PvP, it's uncapped. Like, and this won't make sense to a lot of people who play the game. Uncapped levels. It's like absolutely fucking ridiculous, bro.
Wait. When you say levels, you mean like you pay for levels on a character?
Basically, you pay for levels on the units, and they're uncapped in PvP. So it's like, I think that
literally, if you don't have fully best version of best in slot unit, you're going to run up against yourself, but they wailed harder and you die.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%. But actually there's the problem is not that. The problem is like, is there an actual stop ever, right? Or is it infinite? Because if it's infinite, it is literally just who has more money. I don't know if they put a cap in or not. When I was playing,
that's heinous.
The cap was either nearly impossible to reach, or there wasn't one. But yeah, it's also heavily botted, by the way. Yeah, so have fun with that. It's massively botted. So yeah, just be careful because everybody's super hyped about this game. And I'll tell you, the initial game experience, fantastic. And you can free to play that PvE campaign if you want, and you'll have a good time. But just be wary because that game is very aggressive on monetization. And I don't put out a lot of mobile game PSAs, but it's like every Marvel Snap news site and a lot of content creators are pushing it. And I would get behind it. I think the game is fantastic if you have this discipline to stay relatively free to play and you're interested in the PvE. But if you want to play PvP, I'll tell you right now, it's not very fair. And it's not a rewarding experience. Yeah, it does suck.
I think the thing about card games is like, card games are always fair.
Yeah.
But card acquisition isn't.
Let me tell you.
Right?
Let me tell you
but
what
like,
this
it's
game
not
would
like
be
you
like.
can. But like,
let me tell you.
Hold on, but it's not like you can like. I can't give my Elsa her old ability by paying more money.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you and I play the same cards.
Yes.
It's just the acquisition is fucked up. And I think when games start getting into the realm of like I pay X amount of money to upgrade my unit, it's just like okay, well that's very. The definition.
Yeah, so if we extrapolate the Warcraft Rumble system to Marvel Snap, I would play Elsa as a 2/2 that gives +3. You would play her as a 2/10 that gives +8. Like it is so, the gap is so ridiculous and important and impactful, and yeah, it's not rewarding, that PvP system.
That sucks. That actually is quite unfortunate because I was interested in that game. I was like, oh, this looks cool. Like I see a lot of people that I like playing it. I'm getting influenced, right?
Yeah.
Look at all these like if that's true, that's like damn, that like there's a level of pay to win that I don't think a card game can really approach until it introduces those kind of mechanics.
There's a level where you can't
even get to that.
You see it and you get like extremely demoralized. So I just want to call you out that they could have changed the system. They could have patched it since the early beta.
Okay. I hope they did.
No, it's definitely still pay to win, but is it like infinite levels? You can get infinitely ahead in PvP. I don't know. But it is still definitely like hardcore pay to win for PvP. that is just a fact.
That just doesn't feel good, right? Like, because like in card games, it's like, you know, at least at the top end of ladder, pretty much everyone has access to the cards. So it's not like you're playing actually unfair games, right? Like you're playing fair games. They're games against other people who have all the cards, right? And I guess it just kind of sucks, the idea that would not be true ever in any kind of game with a competitive aspect, because that sucks.
Yeah, some people like that, to be fair. Like a lot of mobile games are actually predicated on people. Like it is. So we always dog on pay to win. Like we always talk shit about it. Almost everybody I've ever encountered in my life would always talk shit about pay to win. But it is basically, I don't know, but I'll say it is almost a fact that there are people out there. There is an audience that enjoys paying for power and getting ahead and expressing that power over other players, and mobile games make money off of them. So
yeah, but like turning your entire free to play base into a power fantasy for the people paying money does not seem like ideal, right?
That's why mobile games
It's one of the things about. It's one of the things about getting to the high end of ladder, where it's like, at least where I'm here, I can be pretty sure I'm not just beating up on someone who doesn't have the cards, except sometimes I am, because the pool 1 gamers come into ladder at like rank 200 and then rapidly fall. They need to cap that. Have you seen that happening? Because like one of the things that happens is they don't really know how to rank early accounts. And so what'll happen is someone good enough to like hit infinite in a week will start playing the game with like their Khazar Zoo deck. They'll Khazar Zoo their way to infinite. They'll come in at like rank 50 and then just lose every game.
Sounds not intentional.
It's something to do with like whatever their MMR system is. It's bad at handling new accounts. Like if I play a bot, I don't think I get any credit for it. But if a new account beats a bot, it's like getting full credit for it. And so they're coming in on like these insane win streaks and high MMR, and it's just like, oh damn, that's actually crazy. So they should cap the new accounts at like 4K at SP or something. Just be like, stop putting them in there with us. It's not okay. I actually sometimes they'll come into a Twitch chat and I asked one of them, like, do you enjoy what's happening right now, like queuing into this? And they were like, no, it's horrible. I don't know what any of these cards do. I just lose all the time.
Yeah, and it's got to be quite a long road down as well. Yeah, they've had that issue for a while. I guess it's just more visceral now that there's a leaderboard. But I mean, I remember in the past people's alt accounts that they just leveled to infinite were like basically.
Yeah, Dara's alt came in at like way high. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in bot ELO while the main is not in bot ELO back in the day. So anyway, let's go on to the bend and snap section. We just have a few this week. We're going to try to evaluate the cards for the next season because that's our favorite thing to do before the season comes out. Anyway, bend and snap. First one here is from Taz Armstrong. They say, I played Rebels back in 1999, Kitchen Table Magic. Rebels introduced to EDH, Maverick, and Legacy. Inked Spotlight Thanos days before Soulstone nerf. Absolutely, basically what they're saying is they absolutely love Nico Thanos right now because it feels like a toolbox. And the main reason I picked out this,
I actually understand the reference they're making to the Rebels deck.
Yes, so do I.
How messed up is that?
So the reason why I picked this, this comment is because not a lot of people have heard about. So Rebels is a deck in Magic the Gathering where you could play like.
Shout out to Lynn Savi, Defiant Hero.
Yeah,
my God.
Yeah, that's the legendary one?
Yeah, that's the legendary. It's the 3/4, I think.
The legendary rules are really funny back then because if you played it, your opponent literally couldn't play it. Anyway, basically there was a Rebels deck and you could play like a 1-drop, and that 1-drop could tap to go search your 2-drop, which is obviously.
No, this is hold on. We gotta put this in full context, right?
Okay.
So the two main tribes were Rebels and Mercenaries.
That's what I'm getting to is Mercenaries because it's hilarious.
So Rebels were a 1-drop taps to search for a 2-drop, and then a 2-drop goes and gets your 3-drop, and your 3-drop goes and gets your 4-drop. And they were mostly in the color white. Now Mercenaries
it's
were
just
the
as
opposite
good, right?
of that. They were in the color black, except your 7-drop would tap to get a 6-drop. Your 6-drop would tap to get a 5-drop. Your 5-drop would tap to get a 4-drop. Like, this is back when Magic just did not know anything about anything. So they were like, we're just gonna do it like this. They'll be the same. They'll be the same, guys.
So that's why I picked the comment, is because Rebels versus Mercenaries is one of the funniest game design stories I've ever heard in my life.
It's so good.
Because one is so ridiculously valuable, and the other one is the biggest pile of dog shit. And they actually thought that this was like a symmetrical effect. I remember. Oh my god!
They're both getting cards, dude. It's the same.
Mercenaries. They're just so they're opposite literally, but they're all in terms of value. Like one is infinitely
it's so
worse.
cool. It's so cool that they did that.
It's OG Magic. All right. This question is from Russell Do. They say, question for the podcast. Recently, the old Pro bundle became purchasable again for accounts, allowing it to be bought 3 times per account. When this bundle dropped, I remember both Brendan and Cam talking about how it was a shitty catch-up bundle in the context of getting caught on full collection players. What do you think Second Dinner can do to make the catch-up process for brand new players better? We talked about this in a sense.
Double the value of the Pro bundle, but only if you're under 600 CL.
Okay, so you you have like
even 25K.
That makes sense. We talk
other things they could do, like they actually, dude, some of the bundles for starter players are like actually really good.
Well, they get the cards too,
like,
right?
Yeah, there's like a bundle with Thor in it that's like $15, great value, and you get the Thor. It's like, oh my god. Some of those bundles are like insane value. Like, I wish I could buy them type value, right? Yeah. Others are not, but and they're not really like a very discussed part of the game because no player who's invested enough to watch streams ever sees them. So like they're not really like a part of the game universe, as it were. And that's it's unfortunate because they are an interesting monetization aspect. But like, if you want to get the catch-up mechanics, yeah, just make it so the Pro bundle gives them 25,000 credits below, like as long as they're still in pool 2.
Yeah. Speaking of BlizzCon, do you see what Hearthstone's doing for returning players with this next expansion? Basically, they give you like a catch-up packs or some shit. It's like based off your percentage of your collection, and then you get these packs for free for people to come back in. Because like one of the biggest issues with Hearthstone is like a lot of people listening to this, including me and you, Cam, have played Hearthstone. But if you ever see like a Hearthstone stream where you hear about like the meta is actually kind of decent right now, you're like, oh, maybe I'll go play. And you're like, holy shit, not only do I have to click to open 200 plus packs, but then I have to spend all this money. And it's just like, there's such a ridiculous entry fee. It looks like they're actually putting in, implementing sort of a system to try to help with that, because it's it just turns me off every time I think about going to play that game again. And shout out to
this is why, by the way, to take this back to what we talked about earlier. This is why they need to have a light hand with nerfs, right? If you played Thanos in March and you showed up and you were like, "Oh, can I play Thanos?" It would have been true up until like right now. You could have done it, right? You wouldn't have had to do too much. You would have had to like pick up, Eliath maybe, Mobius maybe, right? And it's like, okay, well, you can upgrade your Thanos deck like that. You could probably, if you're like a returning player and you're playing it from like rank 10 or whatever, you don't have to do any of that upgrading. Like, you can still play Thanos. Go nuts, dude, right? Like, I know Human Spider is still playing Lockjaw Thanos right now, this very moment. He's playing Lockjaw Thanos. And it's like, okay, I mean, like, you could still do that. Yeah. And that's why it's so important for them to be light-handed with those nerfs. Because if they obliterate a card out of existence, that is obliterating those tokens out of existence too.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next one comes from DNLKTV. They say, my experience was that I reached CL 500, got my tokens, grabbed a few more old caches, it was May 2023, and bought Galactus with no other support cards. I was just excited to break the game. You know the rest of the story. I mean, this is on theme with what we've been talking about all podcasts, but just the feels bad of especially like a player that is committing to buying that one card, maybe because it's a versatile card or they think that card is particularly interesting and they have all these plans to play with it.
Wait, hold on. What is the rest of the story there? I don't know the rest of the story.
I'm assuming that this is a little secret about me, is I am not good with dates, months, any sort of time, space awareness. I'm assuming this is before
you're
the
saying,
Galactus nerf.
Galactus got nerfed. You bought it with no support cards. Well, good.
I feel.
Am I supposed to think the Galactus nerf was bad?
Not the Galactus nerf, but you're extrapolating to like, okay, I bought this cool, interesting card in Snap. And
it's still cool and interesting after it's a 6/7.
Okay, well, let's say this card is Mobius. I bought my Mobius. I can't wait to build all my Mobius decks.
Yes, no, that sucks, but no one actually thinks like that. No one is like, I can't wait to build a Mobius deck. No one's out here like, yo, I love Mobius.
Can't wait to base my whole deck around this hate bear.
Yeah, I can't wait to base. Yeah, like no one does that. It's not a thing. That said, like, this is why they've been like, Galactus is a card they've used iterative changes on, right? Like, they didn't just immediately delete Galactus. They were like, okay, let's, move it into a different form. And then when that form was too strong, they were like, all right, let's move it into a different form. Let's nerf it down a little. And you can still, I want to be super fucking clear about this. You could still hit infinite with Galactus. You absolutely can. Like, yeah, even if you're not very good at the game. You could still hit infinite with Galactus. It's not the optimal thing to do. It's not like one of the top 10 decks I'd recommend, but you could do it. I would never play it in my ELO, but you could do it. And that is, it's not nothing.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for your comments and questions of last week's video. We actually had a ton, so I had to cherry pick a few, but I just want to let you all know that we appreciate it. And if you want to get your comment read out on next week's pod, you can shoot us a question or statement.
No, do some more. I don't mind going long. Do some more. I've liked the longer segment. No, I've liked the longer segments.
I only have one more.
Okay, but do it.
Okay.
Because I think that the more questions we read out, the more questions we get. And I want to keep that going.
There's a really good phrase that this person uses. So Robert Rivern, they say, I agree with him landing archetype cards properly. X23, Dakin, Silver Samurai, Black Knight are awesome and fun cards. Decently powerful and synergistic with their archetype without bending the entire meta around them. I think the issue with the OP cards on release and quote unquote nerf scamming comes from the lack of focus on archetypes in Snap. Ever since I played during Zabu's release, the best decks were always these mid-range decks running good stats with tech cards that can invalidate an entire deck, or decks built around pumping a broken card like Galactus or Alioth. That's just funny in context for our last comment. Is. But what do you think about this nerf scamming? I mean, it's basically what we've been talking about the whole time. I just felt like that is a way to describe it.
I mean, like, I think it's a strong word for what is literally something that has happened one time. Mm-hmm. But, like if you wanted to describe the Mobius thing as that, I think that's fair. But like, if you wanted to like describe the Galactus thing as that, you're way off base. If you wanted to describe the Thanos thing as that, you're way off base. Shuri, way off base. Like, those are balance changes to cards that are too strong. They're correct, right? Even the Elsa and Loki, it's like, no, those are balance changes to cards that are too strong. That's what they should do when those cards are too strong. And it's actually good that they do that to cards that they're currently on the season pass, because if you recall, this is what kills me. They were about to take a fucking victory lap. Second dinner defenders were about to have a victory lap. Like, yo, you guys said this game was explicitly pay to win and they were going to nerf Elsa after the season pass was over. They nerfed her immediately. You can tell they're willing to actually go the extra mile for balance. Look at that nerf. And then they were like, yeah, we nerfed Mobius because we thought we wanted you to buy him.
We already got the 3,000 tokens.
Yeah. It's like, right? Like, they were like, the conspiracy, people forget this, but like 2 weeks ago, the conspiracy was they'll never nerf Elsa and Loki. People paid for those, right? And now the conspiracy is this, right? Like, I will, like, it is sort of frustrating because, like, I was always someone who was like, yeah, shut up, man. They're going to nerf Elsa and Loki. It's fine. Like, that's always been my thing. But, like, I feel like if you're a person that went straight from they're never going to nerf Elsa and Loki to, oh my God, they nerf scammed me on Mobius, I would like you to examine your priors here. I just wanted to say that. Like, I feel like there is a significant portion of people who went straight from they're going to nerf Elsa and Loki to, oh my God, they nerf scam Mobius without acknowledging, like, hey, no, they actually did nerf Elsa while she was still purchasable. Mm-hmm. Like, they demonstrated a commitment to making the game balanced even at the expense of their wallet, right? They have done that, and they have consistently done that, like, genuinely, right? Like, it has been a consistent thing, and I would like to see more of it, frankly. I would like to see more of them explicitly saying, like, yo, we are not doing this shit, right? We are not, like, we are committed to the game being balanced, not, like, running bundle scams on you. Like, that would be really nice.
What are your thoughts on us going back to these, like, gotcha banners? Because, like, it was like an idea a while before we had Jerry.
You want them to go back to Nexus events? No.
I'm just asking because we had Jerry on a long time ago now, Jerry Thompson, and he was like, "Oh, I thought they were going to do this gotcha banner thing, and they scrapped it all." But, like, it looks like it's came back, and now we have banners all the time with cards and variants. What do you think about the whole banner thing? Do you like it? Because you said it's like insane value for new players, right? Well, I mean, value is such a...
What are you talking about? You guys what do you even mean? You guys have never played gotcha games before if you think what we have is gotcha banners.
Yeah, but I said the word value, which is just completely relative because you're actually buying nothing of substance. But
but you're talking about gotcha banners. Like, but motherfucker, I play Fate Grand Order. Like, oh my God, this is not a gotcha banner.
What is this game? I knew you played... whatever, Honkai Star Rail.
I played Honkai Star Rail. I played Genshin Impact. I played Fate Grand Order.
What's the new one? What's Fate Grand Order?
One Piece TC. I've played Fire Emblem Heroes. So I've played a lot of bullshit ass gotcha games before in my life, right?
This is why you need the WoW Rumble sponsorships. You're destitute after these games.
FGO isn't new, by the way. Like, FGO is like the first gotcha game I ever played because of my boy Iskandar. But like, that's a game where it's like entirely PvE, and you use the paid currency, which is about... God, I'm trying to put my brain around it, right? So, like, okay, a banner shows up. This servant will only be available for like 2 weeks. The unit, right? The unit's only going to be there for 2 weeks. You have these gems. You can roll 30 gems for 10 shots at the guy.
Yep.
You have like a 1% chance at it.
But you're guaranteed if you open 100 or something, right?
You are not.
Okay, so
there is no pity system. You are absolutely not. Okay, and so, like, you have the gems. And if I recall correctly, it's like $80 for 160 gems. So like 5-10 rolls, $80. And so, like, what you will do in FGO is, if you are even not even like not a whale, like just a medium spender, you will pick like some banners over the course of the year that just dump fucking money into. You will plan your shit out on a spreadsheet over the course of years. Like, so bad.
What the
It's so bad.
What the
it's
fuck
so,
is this?
so bad.
What?
It's what it is, and I'm not super off base. I think it might be the most profitable gacha game of all time.
What's the where's the dopamine? Is it just the gambling, or like what's the hit? Why do you do it?
It kind of is the gambling. Yes. I only do it for the gambling. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't played the game since Snap came out.
You still gamble and you don't play the game?
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay.
I don't even know. But I have played FGO in my life, right? I played for like a year or two, maybe. And yeah, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I don't think people understand what a gacha game is until they play one. I have dumped so much money down the gacha hole, and it is just gone forever.
Yeah. Oh. I played so funny story, because I might have told you this, but you'll find this entertaining. Genshin Impact came out with a card game, and I was like, I'm a absolute fiend for new card games. I gotta see what it's like. So I was like, I'll play that game. You had to reach level 30 or some shit with all your guys. Like, okay. I think I spent just insane amount of hours. It took me weeks to be able to play the game. It took me weeks. It took me money. I spent money. I did the banner thing. Like, I did it all. And then I hit level 30. I played the game. Sucked ass. Closed the app. Never opened it again. I swear to God.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Anyway, if you want to get your comment read out on next week's podcast, shoot us a question or statement on YouTube. All right, let's 10 out of 10. Let's bullseye all of these new cards, because
okay,
we always get them right. All right, first one, the season pass card. Miss Marvel 4/5 says ongoing adjacent locations where your cards have unique costs have +5 power. Okay. That's interesting. We've never seen anything like that before in terms of like the actual conditions you're trying to meet, right? What are your thoughts on this?
In terms of the conditions, no.
Yeah.
It's somewhere between Omega Red and Doctor Doom, right? Like, it's like when you look at it, you're like, oh, yo, this is 4-cost Doctor Doom. That's so sick. And then it's like, all right, hold on. This is actually the most balanced possible 415. Where it's just like, if you wanted a 415 that was extremely vulnerable to like every tech card, right? Enchantress, Rogue, Echo, right? Okay, sick, right? By the way, tangent, Echo, why is her ability what it is? That's not what she does. In the comics, her power is copying stuff. Why is she a tech card against ongoing abilities? That's dumb. Stop it. Anyway, The thing about Miss Marvel is, you know how I said Werewolf is like the most balanced 311 of all time? That's how I feel about Miss Marvel. This is like the most balanced 415 of all time.
This is way more hoops than Werewolf. So
yeah, it's a lot. That's what I mean. It's the most balanced 415 of all time. If they just printed a card that was like 415, you can do it. But this is like, the hoops are stringent.
They're serious. And
yeah.
How do you feel? I mean, at what degree are you like, is this card good? Do you think this card is definitely good? I know that.
It goes in like Darkhawk, right? Where it's like, that will allow you to play it along with something else on the final turn. It's also the kind of situation in a deck where it's like, that's a deck that needs some beef. Mm-hmm. And it's a deck where it's like a typical mid-range deck where, you're not likely to have multiple cards that cost the same amount in that lane, right? So that's good, right? And even if it's a 410, you're like, yeah, that's pretty solid.
You're right.
I'm cool with that.
The floor is actually not too bad. Like a 410 is pretty reasonable.
It's good.
Because it
goes in Darkhawk, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a good Darkhawk card.
I was thinking about, things like Polaris, Juggernaut, Spider, like things that are not with this, but against this. No, not with this. Against this, like how disruptive that might be. But even if you like get a nice knock or you get a nice pull, you're just turning their Miss Marvel into like a 410, which is still pretty good. So
yeah,
I don't know. This is honestly one of the recent season pass cards that doesn't get me too excited. I mean, maybe the maybe it's complicated in the sense that the immediate deck that it goes into is not apparent. I just wonder if this is going into a good deck that already exists, or you're building a deck around this. And I think it's the first one.
If you build a deck around it, I think it sucks.
Yeah.
I think it has to go in a good deck that already exists, and I think that would be like a Darkhawk type thing. But I do think it'll probably be pretty good there. The question is if Darkhawk is ever able to be good, which, like, with current Mobius, the answer is, holy shit, you get run over by Loki. Oh my god.
Yeah, Loki is good. All right, the first one's going to be released in November. Gladiator. Gladiator's a 3/7. Says, on reveal, add a card from your opponent's deck to their side of this location. If it has less power, I'm assuming less power than Gladiator, destroy it. Well, that's a really interesting effect. So 3/7 is above curve. I think that what's our 3-cost vanilla in this game? Is it 3/5?
3/5.
Okay, 3/5.
It's 3/5. I mean, like, it's actually 3/4, but like if we're being real in competitive ranks, it's 3/5.
Okay, so add a card from your opponent's deck. If it has less power, destroy it. I don't know. It's for plus 2 points. It seems like it's a pretty risky card. I guess if you knew the meta wasn't playing cards that would punish you for this. But I don't know.
Well, there are two things that stick in my mind about this. The first thing is this card is a noob trap, right? Newer players are always going to evaluate like blowing up your deck higher than they should. That's just how it works, right? Now, the second thing, though, is, well, wait a minute. I actually kind of like this card in the context of, like, we play this against Loki and it just, like, kills a guy. Or, in a different context, you pull something out that can get Shang-Chi'd. You know? Like, I don't hate it in, like, a clog kind of deck, right? If there's a card that you're, like, specifically looking to avoid, like Annihilus late, right? You want to pull it out of the deck so they can not get it to happen. I don't know. Like, it's not... 3/7 Yondu is more interesting to me fundamentally than 1/2 Yondu. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, this is pulling it onto the location. So what if you just pull something that's like an X8, X9, and
how many X8, X9s are there?
So there's not a lot. But even if you're like, okay, I pull it out and then I have to Shang-Chi it, you now have to commit your Shang-Chi.
Yeah, no, that's not
a card they played for free.
Good.
You
but
don't
like,
do that.
again, like 3/7 Yondu, which this mostly will be, is better than 1/2 Yondu. Because, like, the main issue with Yondu is that it is a 1/2.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything, right? Like, if Yondu was on if you literally printed 3/7 Yondu, that would actually be a good card. Like, that would actually,
for sure.
Because it's about the fact that a 1/2 doesn't impact the board in any realistic way, right? Like, so it better be doing something else good. Yeah. And 3/7 actually, like, it's less about the cost, weirdly, and more about the power. It's got to be like something that can be a legitimate threat in the lane, right? And 3/7 Yondu is like, okay, you know, that's like a little better than 1/2 Yondu, right? It just is. Even if it's doing similar stuff, 3/7 Yondu is better. The issue is, you know, if this isn't 3/7 Yondu, it's probably pretty tough to deal with.
Yeah. Does this fit well enough into Destroy where you're benefiting via the null if you destroy, and you're also clear, you know, I don't know if you have death in there, but, you know, maybe discounting the death another time. Like, is that good enough? This card is fundamentally inconsistent, right? Like, maybe there's not, if in the right meta, there might just not be a lot of cards that you can pull. I think you want to play this card when you're very sure the card you're going to pull out, you're going to destroy, because in any other situation, it's terrible. Like, you can't be pulling your opponent X8 out of the deck. That's just a terrible exchange for you. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of a Timmy card, but maybe it's just good enough and like Destroy. I don't know. But anyway, and now the next card that this month is Annihilus, which is a 5/7. Says, on reveal, your cards with 0 or less power switch sides. Destroy those that can't. On reveal, your cards with 0 or less power switch sides. Destroy those that can't. What the fuck? Wait, why is
pretty messed up? Right?
Wait, explain this card to me. I don't know why it's eluding me. Explain this.
You play Debris into Sentry into Annihilus.
Okay. Okay.
Do you get it now?
Yes, I get it.
That's a pretty powerful thing to be doing there. And even if you don't send your stuff over, it dies instead of sitting on your board.
Yeah, that's
that guy is Junk Legion. The issue is, if he ever sees a ton of play, he's also a self-solving problem in the worst way. Because like one player will play Annihilus, and then the second player will play Annihilus, and it's like, oh my fucking god, right? It's like, because like you just if both of you have Annihilus, the person who reveals it second is always winning that, and so it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is the worst game of all time.
It'd be a priority game, right? And you'd be doing it on the final turn. So you'd probably be doing it on turn 6. It would be priority based, and you would be guessing a little bit, like on location. That's
phenomenal.
Oh, it could be fun. All right, last one. Martyr. This is a 1/4. It says, at the end of the game, move to a location that loses you the game if possible. So you get a card that is overstated fundamentally by 1. And it has this pseudo downside.
Yeah, what the fuck are they doing here? Why is this a 1/4?
It
needs to be like a bigger body with a bigger cost. Make this like a 3/8.
Doesn't seem like enough of a payoff for a 1/4. But maybe
make this a 3/8. Maybe this should be a 3/8.
You playing this in like Zoo with like Shauna and stuff like that?
Why would you do that instead of playing Titania? Or hear me out. Why would you do that instead of playing Ant-Man?
True, Ant-Man's a 1/4 now, isn't he?
It's the same 1/4.
He is a 1/4 now, isn't he?
What do you mean now? He's always been a 1/4.
I thought they changed him recently.
They changed him recently, so he works in Space Throne now. That's the change they did.
Yeah, he works by himself.
It's like, oh, this 1/4. All right, okay. So hear me out. I went through the same thought process. Like, okay, we play her in Zoo. That's a Zoo card because what happens in Zoo is we fill up the board, right? We do everything we can to fill up the board, and then once we filled up the board, we can play her as a 1/4. And then I was like, wait, once we've filled up the board, we can play Ant-Man as a 1/4, and it doesn't try to lose us the game.
Yeah, and Ant-Man's also ongoing, so it can be played in
Spectrum.
Yes, this is so. I mean, those are all the cards for the month, but that's interesting. So outside of the season pass card,
I don't know what they were doing. Man.
Yeah,
what the fuck were they?
That's an interesting.
What the fuck is up with Martyr, dude?
Dude, coming off the back of the Elsa Bloodstone season and the Loki for All Time season, and some of the cards we had come out of that. I mean, this is really interesting. Like this month.
Well, I mean, Annihilus seems like about on that level. Like, probably not on that level, because it's a little more telegraphed and it's a lot less, go everywhere. And it's kind of a self-solving problem. Elsa didn't counter Elsa. It was just two people doing Elsa stuff. But Annihilus does counter Annihilus. But, yeah, I don't know. Miss Marvel seems like the second best card. Annihilus seems like the best card. And then Martyr seems like the worst by a margin I can't even really express. I don't know what the fuck they were cooking with that.
Well, I do think, for what it's worth, that Gladiator is hilarious, and I'm sure that some people are going to die on the hill of that card being fantastic.
It might actually be good. It legitimately might end up being good. Think about that card.
It is a meta call, though. There is a filter there, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are ripping X8s and X9s and X10s out of their opponent's deck because we're like, oh shit, I got unlucky.
One of the things I learned about Gladiator when I was like, why does this guy look like Superman combined with the Giga Chad? Was he's actually a Superman parody. His name is Clark, and like as in Clark Kent combined with Kal-El, right? He's doing a thing. And he's exactly as strong as he thinks he is at any moment in time. He's a confidence-based superhero. When that's what his ability is doing. He's like, I can beat your ass, and then like a big guy shows up and he's like, oh shit, I'm losing. That's Gladiator.
Dude, it feels like a while before we've had a conversation because we do these every month, where we're not being like, this card is fucking broken. This is like the first time.
I mean, we could do that about Annihilus if you want. I think he's very strong.
I don't think he's going to be close. I don't think he's going to be close to Loki or Elsa, to be honest. He could be.
We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong there because it's contextual.
I mean, like turning your Sentry into a 420 is insanely fucked up.
Yeah. The reason why it's elusive.
Like, how does any other deck beat Debris Sentry Annihilus? How do you beat that?
Well, I mean, that's like the 3-card curve, right? Which is not that consistent.
But like even just Sentry Annihilus is like, fuck. That's really hard to deal with.
Yeah, I was going to use a terrible
-10.
I was about to use
-10.
About to use such a bad analogy. I was like, well, how does any deck beat Time Stone, Turn 4, Profex, old school Spider-Man?
Yeah, that thing everyone hates.
Nobody beats that. I was like, nobody beats that.
You remember that? Everyone hated that shit. I thought it was the worst thing ever.
All right, best deck. Let's hit the best deck real quick. So this is Cam's list, and we have your list and Lambie's list. They're pretty similar, slightly different style. All right, Cam's Loki list is Maria Hill, Nico, Quinjet, Snowguard, the Collector, Falcon, Sentinel, Green Goblin, Werewolf, Shang-Chi, Loki, America Chavez. Anything you would change about it? And what, I don't know if you played.
Did you say Agent 13 or did you say Green Goblin?
I said Green Goblin. Did you swap in Agent 13?
Okay. No. The Agent 13 was the old list. I would say if you see a lot of Destroy, swap in Cosmo for Green Goblin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it.
The Collector is, I mean, Werewolf. It's so funny the numbers of this deck pushes with Werewolf, Collector, and Falcon. Mm-hmm. It's really fun to play, by the way. If you're hesitant, you're on the fence, this deck is very, very fun to play. And it's perfect.
Lambie and I have actually talked about it. Like, of the two lists, mine is definitely the easier one to play, and his is the one that is sort of hard teched for the mirror by design. Eventually, I'm going to convince him that he doesn't need to play Elsa, though, because she fucking sucks. It's sad to say, but like Elsa and Werewolf just don't go together.
They do
like,
not. Yeah.
We had this conversation on 8 Cubes where it was like, he's so close. He's so close. I'm going to get him eventually. Like, I'm going to get him to cut that card eventually. Like, man, does she suck.
All right. And Lambie's list is Forge, Maria Hill, Nico, Snowguard, Elsa Bloodstone, the Collector, Falcon, Werewolf by Night, Beast, Shang-Chi, Loki, America Chavez. Yeah, the only thing I'll say is I was getting a lot of, like I said at the top of the pod, I was getting a lot of runway out of Forge, to be honest. Like, I was activating that card multiple times. And that was often above 1-3. Yeah. So it seemed pretty powerful. Yeah. All right, well, sweet. Anything to say about the meta? I mean, Loki is back again. Seems to be the best deck. But you mentioned at the top of the pod that it's not by the order of magnitude that it was in the past. That it is not.
Yes.
Overwhelming.
I think there's no deck that's probably good, right? Like Loki is, I think, the best deck, right? But it has some actually clearly defined bad matchups. Mm-hmm. I think actually specifically Destroy is like a very good deck that is very good into Loki, unless they have the Cosmo in there. Like, Destroy is quite solid. I think that Loki Collector is probably a little bit too strong for anything else to be the best deck than a deck that has those two cards in it. But it's not like insurmountably strong. It's not like, oh my god, this is the only thing you can ever play. I will say, I think they should bring back Mobius. That's my take on the metagame. I think they should bring back Mobius.
Any reservations to how could be hurting Pool 3 or like some sort of metagame that we don't
no, like bring back Mobius and then nerf him a different way.
Okay.
Like don't bring back 2-3 Mobius. That was dumb. Bring back Mobius and make him like bad. Bring back Mobius and make him a 2-1. You know what I mean?
I could see it. All right. Yeah. Well, if you're listening to this podcast and you enjoy it, you can leave us a review at ratethispodcast.com/snapshot, or you can go direct to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more than your brain could imagine. I'm telling you, it's incredible what it does for this podcast. There's a video version of this at youtube.com/@the_snapshot. Hit that like, subscribe while you're there. And don't forget to leave us a comment if you want to get your question or statement read out on next week's podcast. Twitter's Brendan APG, Cam Best MS. Cam is streaming often, but when, Cam? When?
So there was a time change in the United States.
Yes.
So it's still 6 p.m. for me, but if you're international, it might be 7 p.m. for you, or, what was 7 p.m. for you? I don't know. Time changes are stupid. I don't like that we have them.
I thought we were getting rid of them.
No. They always talk about it, and then it never happens.
Yeah, there's actually some crazy stats regarding like car crashes, just like general human mortality around daylight savings because of how impactful 1 hour of sleep is on cognitive function. It's like actually ridiculous.
Yeah, as someone like I was going to stream today. I woke up early and I like went to take a little nap, and then I woke up too late for me to stream. Like and we gained an hour. But I abused that game hour. I was like, I could stay up later. I was wrong.
You dirty dog. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week.